Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Aaron Brondum. I'll be your host for today's interview. I'm excited to be joined by Mano Sundararaj, one of the owners and vice president of operations at Triton Concepts. He's here to talk about why Neeve is their platform of choice for service. Mano, thank you for taking the time to join me today. To kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about your company and your industry background?
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me. I'm Mano Sundararaj. I'm VP of Operations at Triton Concepts. We are headquartered in Irvine, California, and we serve Southern California, basically San Diego to Santa Barbara. We're an automation and energy company. We deploy automation systems for temperature, humidity, and pressure control in life science, healthcare, and higher ed verticals, essentially critical environments. We also focus on energy management side, metering, energy usage type data, also HVAC equipment such as airflow control valves for labs that focuses on precise airflow control. Essentially automation and energy within these facilities.
Great, great. Now, Triton Concepts, you guys haven't been in business that long. I did not know about you guys till I called a good friend of mine and said, "Who's the new person on the block in Southern California that's being disruptive?" And he said, "You've got to meet these Triton Concept guys." And it was really great to meet you and the other owners of the business and get to understand your background and why you guys exist. And so the common thread is your leadership team. You guys all come from the big BMS contractors and manufacturers and have really great experience. So you kind of had a fresh slate when you guys started Triton Concepts. So what were the key things that you guys wanted to do different from all the lessons that you guys have all learned in your collective experience at these larger companies?
Yeah, great question. Myself and the rest of the leadership team, Tony, Ramon, and Bryce, we've spent a good amount of time with the larger manufacturers, Siemens and Schneider. And we've held different types of roles, right? So we're not all sales or we're not all operations based. We have ops management, service management, sales management, and kind of general management responsibilities at these organizations. Great experiences, great companies, right? Really had an amazing time working at these spots. The reason why we wanted to start Triton is we wanted to be closer to our customers. So that's the biggest thing, right? We felt like we were getting a little bit further and further away from our clients, right? So we wanted to focus on, hey, the quality of our delivery, right? Pretty much our entire success can be attributed to the team that we put together, right? Because we're a service-based organization, right? It's very important to have a very strong team to deliver that. The people who are interacting with the clients on a day-to-day basis, our engineers, we feel are top-notch, right? We wanted to put together a team that can just be of good quality, can be nimble enough to respond to issues or service or communicate at a speed that people expect in this space, and just go to business by focusing on specific verticals, kind of like a quality over quantity type approach.
Great, great. So I'm sure when you guys are selecting products to bring these customers, it's got to be a high quality product and it's got to be aligned with your company's values and goals. So, when you were introduced to Neve, what really stood out about it and what made you consider it seriously?
Yeah, and that's very true, right? We don't necessarily push a lot of products. Even within our core business, we lead with Schneider Electric for all the automation and energy related product. We focus on CRC for airflow control. So we're partners of specific products that we kind of like believe in, and we push because we feel like it can add value to our clients. The same way is why we kind of brought Neve into the picture, for service. Again, service-based organization, pretty much you have to have a fast and nimble service team to kind of respond to issues and maintain these automation systems that are like, a bit more complicated than something that would go in like an office space, for example. So that's kind of where we brought in Neve to give us that infrastructure to kind of respond to service requests and kind of service clients, faster.
Yeah, yeah. And I know in our discussions that your guys' services focus is a big differentiator and you're doing things quite a bit different than just Neve than what a traditional system integrator would do. What are some of the other things you guys have done on the services side that have been differentiators from that traditional offering that you kind of grew up with?
Yeah, so Need kind of rounds us out. So what we first wanted to do was completely digitalize service, the way our clients interact and with us on the during the service period, right? So essentially we do projects, whether it's like a construction project, whether it's retrofits where we're modernizing existing systems. Once the project's complete, you go into a service period where you're maintaining the system, right? So invariably there are things There are wish list items. There are items that are like, could be issues, could be, software patches, So there's a collection of things that could kind of surface, and something that we maintain. And our huge focus is our recurring, service base. Any controls business, that's one of the biggest indicators of how healthy your business is, your recurring service base. So the main thing that we wanted to do, and with the help of our service manager Mo, we have our service team, we designed a Triton service portal, a client portal, and clients have access to this, and they can log in, look at their service arrangement, see how many hours use, all the different metrics, how we've been performing, how many issues we've been resolving, that type of thing. And they could actually enter issues for us to kind of look at, or items that they want us to do. And so we can actually clearly track it, and we can quickly assign that to an engineer. Our engineer gets notification that it's assigned to them, and they can respond to it. Where Neeve comes in is how we respond to that, how quickly we're able to respond to it. So Neeve establishes a secure infrastructure where we could actually access these facilities in a secure manner, and not necessarily wait for 3 weeks before we get on site. And it all sounds pretty basic. Oh, it's just remote access. It's not necessarily the case. There's so many other things that go into play. There's cybersecurity, there's multi-factor authentication, there's agentless remote access. There's so many other things that really make Neeve, special.
Well, as myself as a like I call myself a former system integrator, and I'm sure you felt the same way, is when you sit down across the table from the customer's IT team, those are always meetings that you tend to dread and do not look forward to. How have those meetings gone now that you're showing Neve? And what kind of responses are you getting from these IT folks that might have been, at least my experience, they come in very hard and lots of questions. My experience been it's with Neve, it's so much easier.
Yeah, and it's the same way, right? Neeve and Schneider Electric, for example. I mean, both the products that we actually lead with, those conversations have been a lot easier. Schneider has very good documentation. The same way with, and it's even more important for Neeve because they predominantly operate in the IT OT space, and we need to have those conversations with clients. And over the last 6 months, let's say, we've been kind of focused on this, right? We've been very successful in deploying Neeve at multiple clients for care, life science, and higher ed space. And recently, you were there. We met one of our clients in the higher ed space who would not even have a conversation with the building automation contractor. This client was not only receptive to the Neeve secure remote access solution, but they wanted us to adopt it to completely move their on-prem BMS infrastructure to our Neeve cloud hosted infrastructure. They want us to take over that completely, which is very encouraging to see at that level, being that receptive that quickly.
Yeah, you guys are not alone in that. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in meetings and I get the responses, "Where have you been? We need a solution like this."
Exactly.
And Neve is not the, I would say, the lower end solution for this. As you're talking about your guys' business and your focus being customer and relationship based and service based, that's really what Neve is designed for as well too. We take a very similar approach at our company, and it's been a great marriage of the two offerings with Neve and Triton to your customers. What have you heard back from your team? Mo, you're the leader, and Mo runs the service business, and then you got your service technicians underneath Mo. What have they been saying about the product, and what have you heard from them?
So traditionally, what happens is you are set up with a credential for like a Cisco login or a Citrix login, depending on which client you're servicing, and only a select group of engineers on your team have that login, because again, the client's not going to basically enroll every single person in your organization. With Neve, every single person within the organization can service the client, because you have domain access, right? And you have multi-factor, access to the Neeve, platform. So and all of a sudden, you don't need to have a designated service person during situations, that are emergency. So that being able to operate in that speed is one of the biggest things. And the UI is pretty easy to use. I can see a future where one of our service engineer logs in and they can see all 10, 20, 30 customers that we have in our service base. We can essentially go pick the VM to log in, or the specific on-prem device that we need to log into service. And that's really where we want to get to. And we will get there. And it's just a matter of time.
That's great to hear. Now, as a leader at Triton, but also as one of the owners, Do you guys sleep a little bit better knowing that you have Neve installed at your customer sites?
Yeah, I mean, the sleep was difficult in the beginning when we started the business, and honestly, we sleep a lot easier because we just have a great team, right? I mean, in reality, I think our management layer as well as like our field team are phenomenal, kind of high ownership. They take responsibility for the client relationships that they oversee, and Neve really augments this. It's a great software platform, right, for us to rely on, and I mean, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, provides that cybersecurity piece, right? And that's what you're looking for.
It does. I mean, you don't necessarily want to be using, TeamViewer, AnyDesk, and that type of, software necessarily, in a finished environment. You want to be relying on something that's, way more secure than just a random VPN or remote access client.
Well, and to know that your customers are not at risk of being ransomware. There's so many integrators that have customers that have been ransomwared, and they've
Yes.
taken a very hands-off approach to say, "Oh, this isn't my responsibility. This is the customer's IT team's responsibility," and they're really not setting their clients up for success.
Not at all. And I could see the amount of emails that everybody gets these days with phishing links, and it's no joke. So this will become essential within the next 2 to 3 years. Maybe people are not seeing it yet, but this is going to become essential over the next 5-year period, 100%. I could see basically a future where we are deploying something like this and doing for 7 service, like a remote service team monitoring facilities and sites using a platform like Neve, right? And really finding a way to add value to our clients.
So as you described the beginnings of Triton Concepts, and I think we're not quite 5 years yet, maybe four complete, and you had a vision and you guys placed a bet. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to be different. And I'd like to think it's been successful, and you guys have really disrupted the markets that you're in, and you're thriving, and you're constantly adding new people. But to that, you're looking at coming up on 5 years. What's the future look like for you at Triton? But then also, what do you think the future of building controls is going to move to over the next 5 years?
So, I mean, 5 years is a good time. I mean, you cross the 3-year time frame and you build like the base that we built. I feel very confident about our future. And the way I see things moving, I see that our clients are expecting more and more from your systems integrator. They're expecting us to not just deploy systems, but also to own the system, take some of the burden out from their facility and IT teams, really augment their day-to-day operations. So I expect more cloud-hosted BMS infrastructure that the systems integrator owns and manages through Neve, platform like Neve, for example, and that's why we adopted Neve. We can see that's kind of how things are headed. I see clients wanting 24/7 servicing. It's all headed in a way where the system integrators are taking a larger and larger role. Right, it's difficult to find enough trained manpower to run some of the facility teams, and this is how we can add value.
Great to hear. Well, happy to hear that too, because we're similar. It's very much on the hosted and the software as a service business, and really that's where IT's been at for a number of years. That's where all the majority of the software companies are at as well, and you see the benefits of that. What are your thoughts on software as a service? It's a little bit new coming into the building automation space, but do you think it's where it kind of sounds like you think it's where the future's at?
Yes. It is. Schneider just, pretty much moved to that model as well for, licensing and, a subscription-based model, and they're very competitively priced, in the market. We've had these conversations. You and I have had these conversations with clients. They are very receptive to essentially have like a SaaS BMS as a service type model where the infrastructure is maintained by the automation teams that's servicing the space.
Well, I'd love to get some final thoughts from you.
Yeah.
And what do you think your final takeaways are? But more importantly, this system integrator space, I like to think there's plenty of work for everyone.
Yeah.
There's not enough people to get to all of it. And as we lift everybody up together, we actually bring the industry up together as a whole. So what would your advice be to somebody that might be looking to start their own system integrator business, or somebody that's looking to do something different than their traditional methods? What advice would you have for them?
I think People sometimes say, hey, all BMS products are the same. I don't necessarily believe in that completely. They're very close, but some products have huge differentiators, and I'd like to think we've picked products that have those differentiators. With Schneider Neve, mainly this is a service-based business. You have to be very close to your clients. That's the biggest takeaway for me. The quicker you can service them, the more value that you can offer with your expertise, um, the better quality your execution is. That's the most important thing. So be as close to your customers as possible, and not necessarily operate in front of a screen and just kind of like wait for the issues to kind of like surface.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Mono, thanks for being a customer. Thanks for being an advocate. And more importantly, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Aaron. I think this is a great partnership. Right. Appreciate it.